Admiral Valoron drummed his four fingers against the crystalline command console, his secondary heart beating with mild annoyance. The Galactic Defense Center's panoramic displays cast a soft purple glow across his scaled skin as he watched the approaching anomaly with growing irritation. "Commander Zara, please tell me this is some sort of malfunction in our detection systems," he said, mandibles clicking in barely contained frustration. "Because if I'm reading this correctly, someone is claiming that a human vessel has breached our outer defense perimeter." Commander Zara Nexus straightened her tentacled form, all six of her eyes blinking in rapid succession. "The readings are confirmed, Admiral. Long-range scanners detected the vessel approximately 47 microcycles ago. It matches known human construction patterns." Valoron released a burst of pheromones that filled the command center with the scent of derision. The other officers shifted uncomfortably at their stations, but maintained their professional composure. After all, this was the most advanced military installation in the known galaxy. They had quantum-locked shield generators, plasma lance arrays, and gravitational manipulation fields that could tear apart entire fleets. And now they were supposed to be concerned about humans? "Bring up the tactical display," Valoron ordered, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Let's all see this terrifying human ship that has the automated defense grid so concerned." The main holographic projection shimmered and expanded, revealing a three-dimensional image of a vessel that looked like it had been cobbled together from spare parts. Its hull was a patchwork of different materials, with visible welding seams that made Valoron's aesthetic sensibilities cry out in protest. That's what triggered a Class 1 alert?" Valoron turned to his chief of analytics, Dr. Rin Blackstar, who was busy interfacing with the station's quantum computer through her neural link. "Doctor, please enlighten us. What devastating weapons does this heap of primitive engineering carry? Perhaps they've mastered the art of throwing very large rocks." Dr. Blackstar's cybernetic implants pulsed with blue light as she processed the data. "Admiral, initial scans show inconsistencies. The vessel appears to be powered by what they call a fusion reactor, basically a crude attempt at harnessing stellar processes. However, there's something odd about the energy signatures." "Odd how?" Valoron asked, his interest marginally piqued despite himself. "They don't make sense. The output levels are fluctuating in patterns that defy our understanding of physics. And the hull composition." She paused, her implants flickering. "It's simultaneously registering as both incredibly primitive and impossibly advanced." Valoron waved one of his upper limbs dismissively. "Clearly a sensor malfunction. Humans only achieved faster-than-light travel a mere century ago. They still use physical controls in their ships for the Creator's sake. Commander Zara, send out the standard warning package. Remind them that they're violating the space of a Class 5 civilization and should retreat immediately." "Warning package sent, Admiral," Zara reported promptly. "Though I feel compelled to mention that our last 3 intelligence reports on human military capabilities have strongly suggested we may be underestimating them? Please, Commander." Valoron's scales shifted to a shade of amused violet. "I've read those reports. Humans are barely more than clever primates who stumbled onto space travel. Yes, they've had some surprising victories against the Krax hierarchy and the Moravian cluster, but those were clearly flukes. Or perhaps," he chuckled, a sound like grinding crystals, "those civilizations were even more incompetent than we thought." The human vessel continued its steady approach, seemingly unconcerned by the warning. "No response to our communication, Admiral," Zara reported, her tentacles twisting in what might have been concern. "How shocking," Valoron replied, stretching languidly in his command chair. "The primitives probably haven't even figured out how to decode our standard transmission protocols. Send it again, this time on all frequencies. Even their crude instruments should be able to pick that up." Dr. Blackstar's implant suddenly flashed red. "Admiral, the vessel's energy signature just changed. It's... The massive view screen erupted in a cascade of errors as every sensor trained on the human ship simultaneously went dark. Valoron's scales involuntarily shifted to a pale green of surprise as he lurched forward in his chair. "What just happened?" he demanded, all traces of sarcasm temporarily forgotten. "Unknown, sir," Dr. Blackstar replied, her cybernetics struggling to process the flood of contradictory data. But whatever that ship is, it's not what it appears to be. Valoron's primary heart joined his secondary in rapid palpitation as he watched the seemingly primitive vessel continue its inexorable approach toward his command center. For the first time in his distinguished career, a tendril of doubt crept into his mind. Perhaps those intelligence reports deserved a second read. After all, Commander Zara's tentacles moved swiftly across her data terminal as she pulled up the historical archives. Admiral, perhaps we should review the first contact protocols? The humans have shown unexpected behaviors in previous encounters. Unexpected? Valoron scoffed, but his scales had not yet returned to their normal hue. You mean like the time they defeated the Crax hierarchy's dreadnought fleet with mining vessels? Precisely, sir, Dr. Blackstar interjected, her cybernetic implants pulsing rapidly. The Crax assumed the human ships were simple resource extraction vehicles. They were wrong. The humans had modified their mining lasers into weapons that cut through crack shields like they weren't even there. Valoron's throat sac expanded slightly, a sign of growing unease. That was different. The Crax are technological scavengers who barely understand their own stolen weapon systems. We developed our technology over 50,000 years of careful advancement. The Moravian cluster said something similar, Zara continued, bringing up another holographic display. 3 solar cycles ago, they surrounded Earth's colony on Proxima b with their bioorganic warships. The Moravians gave humans one planetary rotation to surrender. And? Valoron asked, though he already knew the story. The humans responded by introducing a computer virus into the Moravian neural network. They called it Windows Update. The entire fleet became trapped in an endless restart cycle. Dr. Blackstar's implants flickered with what might have been amusement. The Moravians now refused to approach any human-controlled space. The main display suddenly crackled with energy as the approaching human vessel executed what should have been an impossible maneuver. It phased through their outer sensor grid like it wasn't even there. How did they? Valoron's scales rippled with confusion. Our sensor grid is based on 11-dimensional quantum mechanics. It's the most advanced detection system ever created. Sir, a junior officer called out, his crystalline exoskeleton vibrating with nervous energy. We're receiving a transmission from the Coalition of Free Systems. Priority level, absolute. Valoron flexed his shoulder plates in irritation. The Coalition was a loose alliance of species who had previous conflicts with humans. Most of them were considerably less advanced than his own civilization, but protocol demanded he acknowledge their warning. Put it through, he grumbled. A holographic projection materialized, showing Supreme Commander Zira of the Coalition. Her chitinous face bore the scars of battle, and all 4 of her arms were twitching anxiously. Admiral Valoron, she began without preamble, our long-range sensors detected human activity in your sector. Whatever you do, do not underestimate— Yes, Valoron interrupted. Don't underestimate the primitive apes who still use combustion engines in their ground vehicles. We have everything under control. Zira's compound eyes flashed with panic. You don't understand. 3 cycles ago, they defeated the swarm consciousness with something they called math rock music played at high volume. Before that, they reprogrammed the synthetic collective's entire robot army using something called cat videos. They are not what they appear to be. The transmission suddenly cut off as the human vessel emitted a pulse of something. The energy signature didn't match anything in their database of known weapons. Dr. Blackstar, Valoron said, trying to keep his voice steady, please tell me you figured out what we're dealing with. The cybernetics expert's implants were cycling through colors so rapidly she looked like a malfunctioning light display. Admiral, the ship's hull is now reading as both solid and non-solid simultaneously. It's generating energy patterns that suggest it's operating in 3 different dimensions at once. And, sir, I think it just winked at us. Ships can't wink, Valoron snapped. This one did, Dr. Blackstar insisted. The forward sensor array just registered what can only be described as a gravitational wink. Commander Zara's tentacles had tied themselves into nervous knots. Admiral, reviewing the historical data, there's a concerning pattern. Every civilization that has dismissed humans as primitive has subsequently been, well, Been what? Valoron demanded. Thoroughly embarrassed, sir. The humans appear to have developed their technology along completely different lines than any other known species. They don't follow any recognized advancement patterns. The Galactic Science Academy still can't explain how they managed to weaponize something called interpretive dance against the Silicon hierarchy. The human vessel was now less than 10,000 units from their primary defense line. It was moving in a way that suggested it was either piloted by a genius, a madman, or both. Surely our superior technology, Valoron began, but his voice trailed off as he watched the ship perform a maneuver that his most advanced combat simulators insisted was impossible. Sir, Dr. Blackstar said quietly, I feel compelled to point out that our superior technology is currently giving me readings that suggest that ship is simultaneously here, not here, and somewhere last Tuesday. Valoron's scales had shifted to an unprecedented shade of worried mauve. The last report he'd read about humans had mentioned something about them having speedrun their technological development by sequence-breaking reality. He'd dismissed it as translation error at the time. Now he wasn't so sure. Admiral, Commander Zara's voice had taken on an unusually high pitch. The human vessel is dancing. Send another communication attempt, Valoron ordered, his voice betraying a slight tremor. This time, use every known language format simultaneously. The command center's communication array hummed as it broadcast the message. Please identify yourself and state your intentions. The message repeated in over 10,000 different formats, from quantum-encoded telepathic signals to crude radio waves. The human ship responded by performing what appeared to be a perfect barrel roll while playing something called Never Gonna Give You Up on all frequencies. What does it mean? Valoron asked, his scales now cycling through colors faster than the command center's mood lighting. Dr. Blackstar's cybernetic implants were smoking slightly. Sir, according to our cultural database, we've just been subjected to something called a Rick-roll. It's either a declaration of war or a mating ritual. Our xenoanthropologists are still debating. Commander Zara had pulled up a classified intelligence report on her screen. Admiral, you need to see this. It's from the Arcturian technocracy's encounter with humans last solar cycle. The holographic display showed footage of a human ship, smaller than the one currently approaching, facing off against an Arcturian battle fleet. The humans had been massively outgunned, outmanned, and surrounded. They lost, of course, Valoron asked hopefully. No, sir, the humans, well, perhaps you should watch. The footage showed the human ship broadcasting what they later identified as Careless Whisper by George Michael. The Arcturian fleet's advanced AI systems had attempted to analyze the saxophone solo and crashed, leaving their ships defenseless. That's not possible, Valoron whispered, his primary heart nearly stopping. The Arcturians use quantum AI. You can't crash a quantum computer with music. The humans called it a vibe check, Dr. Blackstar noted, her implants now displaying error messages in 17 different languages. Apparently, the Arcturian AI failed it. The approaching human vessel suddenly split into 3 identical copies of itself. Finally, Valoron exclaimed, they're using holographic decoys, standard tactics. Target the original ship's energy signature. Sir, a sensor operator called out, their bioluminescent spots flashing with distress. All 3 ships are generating identical energy signatures, and according to these readings, they're all the original. That's not how reality works, Valoron shouted, his professional demeanor cracking. I don't think the humans got that memo, sir, Commander Zara observed dryly. Another emergency transmission cut through their communications, this time from the collective of enlightened beings. The holographic figure that appeared was High Philosopher Nexus Prime, their crystalline form vibrating with urgent frequencies. Admiral Valoron, thank the eternal void we reached you. Whatever you do, don't attempt to apply logic to human behavior. We lost an entire philosophy council trying to analyze their memes. They still haven't recovered. Before Valoron could respond, the human ships did something that made every scientific instrument in the command center simultaneously register an error message and file for early retirement. Dr. Blackstar, Valoron said carefully, Please tell me you're seeing something different than I am. If you're seeing the ship turn itself inside out while remaining right side in, then juggle probability fields while humming what appears to be the final countdown, then no, Admiral. I am seeing exactly what you're seeing. Valoron's mind flashed back to other intelligence reports he'd dismissed as exaggeration or propaganda. The humans defeating the quantum harmonists by introducing them to something called dad jokes. The time they repelled an invasion by broadcasting their cat videos to the hive mind of Rigel 7, causing it to spend 3 years doing nothing but watching felines knock objects off elevated surfaces. Sir, Commander Zara interrupted his increasingly panicked thoughts. I've found something else in the classified files, a psychological analysis of human warfare tactics. Read it, Valoron ordered, watching as the human ships began what appeared to be a synchronized swimming routine through 4-dimensional space. According to this report, humans view advanced technology the same way a young offspring views a new toy. They immediately try to find ways to use it that its creators never intended. They call this process messing around and finding out. The report went on to detail various encounters where humans had, through what appeared to be random experimentation combined with something they called throwing science at the wall and seeing what sticks, achieved results that more advanced civilizations had deemed impossible. There's a note here from the Galactic Science Academy, Dr. Blackstar added, her implants now displaying the spinning wheel of eternal contemplation. It says humans are the only known species to treat physics less as a set of universal laws and more as a set of guidelines that are fun to break. A junior officer suddenly called out in alarm. Admiral, the human ship is— Spit it out, officer. It's approaching our quantum-locked shield generators while playing something called yakety sax and— Sir, I don't know how to describe this in technical terms, but it appears to be approaching us sideways through yesterday. Valoron felt his scales begin to molt from stress. This was precisely the sort of situation they hadn't covered at the Advanced Military Academy. How do you defend against an enemy that treated the fundamental laws of reality as mere suggestions? Sir, Commander Zara's voice had taken on the tone of someone accepting their fate. I've found one last intelligence report. It's from the Temporal Guardians themselves. The Temporal Guardians? The most advanced civilization in known space? What do they say about humans? Zara's tentacles trembled as she read, Warning to all spacefaring civilizations, do not attempt to predict human behavior using standard logic matrices. They have somehow achieved quantum uncertainty on a macroscopic scale through sheer force of what they call doing it for the memes. The laws of causality are more like guidelines to them. Also, they rick-roll people, the audacity. The human ship, now existing in 5 quantum states simultaneously while performing what appeared to be a TikTok dance challenge through space-time, was less than 1,000 units from their primary defense line. Admiral, Dr. Blackstar said, her voice unusually calm, I believe I finally figured out what we're dealing with. What? Humans aren't primitive at all. They're just chaos incarnate with faster-than-light travel. As if to prove her point, the ship briefly transformed itself into a giant space-faring rubber duck, honked at them in Morse code, then resumed its previous form as— Valoron's scales had settled on a shade of existential crisis purple. Maybe we should have read those intelligence reports more carefully. Activate all defensive systems, Valoron commanded, his voice cracking like a cadet's first battle simulation. Target every weapon we have on that ship. Ships, whatever they are. The command center erupted into action. Quantum-locked shield generators hummed to life. Plasma lance arrays charged with enough energy to vaporize a small moon. Gravitational manipulation fields twisted space itself into an impenetrable barrier. The human vessel responded by doing a backflip through its own quantum signature. Impossible! Dr. Blackstar shrieked, her cybernetic implants now displaying the blue screen of death. They just used our own quantum-locked shields as a jump rope. Fire the plasma lances, Valoron ordered, his scales now a color that didn't exist in normal spacetime. Beams of superheated plasma, each capable of cutting through battleship armor like paper, lanced out toward the human ship. The entire command staff watched in horror as the vessel casually caught the plasma streams, tied them into a bow, and sent them back with a thank you note written in binary. Sir, Commander Zara reported, her tentacles now stress-eating a protein pack. The gravitational manipulation fields they're... What? What are they doing? The humans are using them to spell out LOL in four-dimensional space. Panic spread through the command center like a quantum virus. Junior officers were calling their spawn to say goodbye. The sensor operators had started a support group. Someone in the engineering section was stress-baking quantum cookies. "Launch the autonomous combat drones," Valoron commanded, desperation evident in his voice. "All 10,000 of them." The space around the defense center filled with sleek AI-driven combat drones, each one a marvel of advanced engineering. They surrounded the human vessel in an intricate three-dimensional attack pattern designed by the most sophisticated military computers in the galaxy. The human ship broadcast what appeared to be a live stream of puppies playing with a ball. Half the drone fleet immediately defected to start their own social media channel dedicated to cute animal videos. The other half began arguing in the comments section about whether cats or dogs were superior pets. "How?" Valoron whispered, watching his most advanced weapon systems devolve into what humans apparently called a flame war. "How are they doing this?" Dr. Blackstar, who had resorted to percussive maintenance on her malfunctioning implants, pulled up one last classified report. "Sir, according to this, humans have a unique approach to technological advancement. While we carefully progress through each stage of scientific development, humans tend to, I believe their phrase is, yeet themselves at the problem until physics gives up." The human ship, apparently bored with breaking their defensive systems, began performing what appeared to be a stand-up comedy routine using quantum fluctuations as visual aids. "Send in the temporal disruptors," Valoron ordered, playing his last card. The massive devices designed to trap enemies in time loops activated with a reality-bending hum. The human vessel split itself across 7 different timelines, started a band, and began playing Through the Fire and Flames, using chronological distortions as instruments. Commander Zara, who had stress-molted twice in the last hour, checked her readings. "Sir, they're not just ignoring our temporal weapons. They're getting better ratings than actual musicians." "That's it," a sensor operator snapped, throwing their tentacles up in surrender. "I quit. I'm going to go study human internet culture in a monastery." Valoron watched in helpless horror as his command center descended into chaos. The tactical officers were trying to decode what they claimed was a human meme that had appeared on their screens. The engineering team was having an existential crisis after the human ship sent them a document titled, "Why Cake is a Lie, a Scientific Analysis." "Dr. Blackstar," Valoron said, his voice hollow, "what are our options?" The cybernetics expert, whose implants were now playing elevator music, consulted her datapad. "Well, sir, according to all known laws of physics, what the humans are doing is completely impossible. Therefore, I suggest we stop trying to apply logic to the situation and accept that we may have made a terrible mistake in dismissing them as primitive." The human ship, now simultaneously existing as a warship, a pizza delivery vehicle, and what appeared to be a traveling circus, had reached their final defense line. "Sir," Commander Zara reported, her voice resigned, "they're broadcasting something across all frequencies." "What is it?" Valoron asked, dreading the answer. "It appears to be a combination of quantum physics equations, synthesizer music, and something called SpongeBob memes. Our analysis computers are demanding therapy." Valoron slumped in his command chair, his scales faded to the gray of total defeat. All their advanced technology, all their careful scientific progress, all their sophisticated military doctrine, and they were being completely outmaneuvered by a species that had apparently achieved faster-than-light travel by, according to the latest intelligence report, vibing with the universe really hard. "Sir," a junior officer called out, their voice trembling, "the human ship is requesting permission to dock. They say they have a pizza delivery for, let me make sure I'm reading this correctly, that grumpy admiral who needs to chill." Valoron's primary heart had given up, and his secondary heart was considering a career change. He finally understood why the quantum harmonists had switched to interpretive dance and why the silicon hierarchy now spent all its processing power making cat videos. They had all learned the same lesson he was learning now. Never, ever underestimate a species that treated the impossible as a personal challenge. With a sense of impending doom, Valoron watched as the human ship docked itself by seemingly breaking several laws of physics, 3 local ordinances, and possibly the space-time continuum. "Admiral," Commander Zara announced, her tentacles tied in stress knots. They're requesting entrance through the main airlock. They say they come in peace and brought, quote, snacks and good vibes." Before Valoron could respond, the airlock cycled open on its own. Their supposedly unhackable security systems had apparently been convinced to cooperate through what Dr. Blackstar's readings described as aggressive friendship protocols. A single human walked into the command center. She was wearing what appeared to be a delivery uniform with a name tag that read Jenny, and carrying both a pizza box and what looked like a portable quantum computer made from spare parts and decorative stickers. "Hey there," Jenny said cheerfully, seemingly oblivious to the various weapons trained on her. "So, funny story, we picked up your distress beacon about an hour ago." "What distress beacon?" Valoron demanded, his scales shifting to confusion purple. "We never sent a distress beacon." "Oh right, you haven't sent it yet," Jenny replied, checking her watch. "That happens in about 2 hours when your quantum reactor has a hiccup in the space-time manifold. We figured we'd save everyone some paperwork and show up early." Dr. Blackstar's implants made a sound like a dial-up modem having an existential crisis. "That's not how causality works." "Sure it is." Jenny set down the pizza box and opened her quantum laptop. "See, we discovered that causality is more of a suggestion if you approach it with the right attitude. Plus, we really wanted to test out our new ship's capabilities. How'd you like the rubber duck transformation?" "That was Dave's idea. He's our engineer. Well, technically he's our janitor, but he got bored one day and figured out how to fold space-time while mopping." The entire command staff stared in stunned silence as Jenny pulled up a holographic display showing their quantum reactor schematics. "So, the problem is this little bit here." She pointed to a complicated array of quantum circuits. "You've got it set up assuming a linear progression of cause and effect, which is super normal but kind of limiting. We found that if you turn it sideways through the 4th dimension and give it a little pizzazz, it works way better." "Pizzazz?" Valoron repeated weakly. "Yeah, jazz it up a bit. Make it fun. Your whole setup is very—" She waved her hands vaguely. "Serious, which is fine. But sometimes you gotta let physics know who's boss, Commander Zara had begun taking notes. "Are you saying you achieved your level of technology by not taking it seriously?" "Oh no, we take it very seriously," Jenny corrected, while applying what appeared to be glitter stickers to her quantum computer. "We just don't let that stop us from trying weird stuff. Like, did you know if you play Beethoven's Fifth through a quantum harmonics array while thinking really hard about spaghetti, you can achieve stable fusion? No one knows why it works, but it totally does." At that moment, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Dr. Blackstar's implants displayed exactly what Jenny had predicted. The quantum reactor was beginning to destabilize. "Right on schedule," Jenny said brightly, typing commands into her laptop with one hand while opening the pizza box with the other. "Don't worry, I got this. Anyone want a slice while I fix your reactor? It's pineapple and quantum particles." They watched in amazement as Jenny's casual keystrokes somehow restored their reactor stability while simultaneously improving its efficiency by 300% and teaching it to play jazz. "There we go. Also, I took the liberty of upgrading your defense systems. They were a bit grumpy, but I showed them some cat videos and now they're much more cooperative. Oh, and your AI assistants wanted me to let you know they're starting a book club. Hope that's cool." Valoron, his scales now cycling through colors that shouldn't exist, finally found his voice. You could have destroyed us at any time." "Destroy you? Why would we do that?" Jenny looked genuinely puzzled while munching on a slice of pizza. "You guys are our neighbors. We just wanted to say hi and help out with your reactor thing. Plus, Dave really wanted to show off the rubber duck mode. He spent like 3 whole lunch breaks figuring out how to break physics for that one. But all our intelligence reports about human warfare capabilities." "Oh, those," Jenny laughed. "Yeah, we're not really into the whole warfare thing. It's just that sometimes other species try to attack us, And we have to get creative. Did you know the Arcturian fleet is actually doing really well now? They've started a jazz fusion band. She checked her watch again. Well, I should probably head out. Got a few more deliveries to make. There's a temporal anomaly in the Crab Nebula that ordered garlic bread, and you do not want to keep time itself waiting for Italian food. Before leaving, Jenny handed Valoron a business card. Here's our number if you need anything. We do reactor maintenance, physics violations, and karaoke nights every other Thursday. Oh, and the pizza's on the house. Consider it a welcome to the neighborhood gift. As the human walked back to her impossibly strange ship, Commander Zara turned to Valoron. Sir, I believe we may need to update our assessment of human civilization. Yes, Valoron agreed, watching as the human ship departed by breakdancing through a wormhole it had created, using what appeared to be a modified waffle iron. Remove all references to primitive from our database. Replace them with... He paused, searching for the right words. Chaotic good? Dr. Blackstar suggested, her implants now inexplicably playing elevator music in jazz fusion style. That works, Valoron nodded, taking a bite of the quantum pizza. It was, annoyingly, the best thing he'd ever tasted. Also, schedule a mandatory meeting for the entire command staff. Topic: why we should actually read intelligence reports about humans instead of assuming we know better. Already done, sir, Commander Zara replied. Though you should know the defense grid is insisting we call it a vibe check instead of a meeting. Apparently, it's learned human slang. Valoron slumped in his chair, watching as his supposedly advanced alien civilization was cheerfully dragged into chaos by the mere passing presence of humanity. You know what the worst part is? What's that, sir? I actually like the jazz music the reactor is playing. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, a human ship continued its pizza delivery route, spreading chaos, friendship, and questionable physics wherever it went.